So one of the major projects you're in charge of, the lead staff person, if you will, is the building of a new police headquarters. So that's a significant project. I understand that may be the most expensive, at least cost-wise, a project that we as a city have ever undertaken.
Right, right. We were blessed to have the citizens support public safety and approve Measure G, and we've set about 25% of that revenue aside since the day it went into effect. And that has given us the resources necessary to build, I think, one of the biggest buildings we've built in our city's history, and what a privilege it is. You know, our police station was built in 1958 for a combination of 93 police and fire.
Wow.
And now just our sworn force is 175 and growing, and they've just outgrown that tired old building.
Right. So when did the project officially begin? And secondly, what are we talking about in terms of the overall cost and to build a new police headquarters?
So in 2007, 2009, the idea was floated by a developer who was developing a 57-acre project called the Alisal Marketplace.
Okay.
And then after the economic turndown and unfortunate circumstances, it got narrowed down to maybe we can build one catalyst project, and maybe that would be the police department, the new police department. So the original schemes weren't based on anything but a dream. There were 110,000 square feet and 4 stories with a Nike soccer field on top. I'll never forget.
Wow.
But with the passage of Measure G, we did a needs study in 2014 and talked to all of our staff and departments and came to an understanding of what our space needs were. And from that, we were able to put together a request for proposals looking for a developer, an architect, and a contractor. The idea is that if you have a project of this size and you can get all 3 of those core members working together from the first step, that you can save a lot of costs and get the project built as quickly as possible. Even having said that, we awarded the bid in April of this year during a time when the cost of construction was increasing in double digits. Mm-hmm. So I understand better than ever now that time is money. And so we're on a fast path to get the building built, and we estimate close to $50,000 for what now is a 2-story, 75,000 square foot building.
Right. You mean 50 million?
Pardon me, 50 million.
Okay. That's a huge number and a significant amount for a police headquarters. But as you said, overly in much need of a new facility, given that the 58 facility has been outgrown several times.
Right, and so what we're designing is really exciting because it gives a chance for the public to come and share a community space of about 1,000 square feet, mm-hmm. and to interact with the police for positive reasons and for reasons that will help us build strong relationships.
Right. So some of the design considerations hopefully are taken into what the public has said,
right,
and that it really will be more of a community inviting facility than it will be sort of the, fortress design, right, in terms of modern day policing and community policing and relating to the community itself.
Right, right, and that's been a very interesting process in the effort to keep the project within budget. Every time we want to reduce costs, we try and maintain and preserve that welcoming effect. So when we met with the CASPA group and LULAC and CHISPA, they all talked about, we don't really care what the architecture looks like, we just want to feel welcome when we approach it.
Okay.
And so we've designed a facade that is welcoming with landscaping and open doors, and the community room has 4 open doors that can be provided into a meeting place. We can close the parking lot for the public and create a soccer field sized meeting place, gathering place for an event like Ciclovia or other First Night Out or other events, so that the department and the community can feel comfortable and relaxed in the same space. We don't have that now,
right.
And so that's a bonus.
It'll be kind of like a plaza area that is part of the police headquarters complex.
Yes.
As you enter the space, if you will.
Yes. Alfred Diaz-Infante, the executive director for CHISPA, the first thing he said was, set the building back and give the people some space in front. And so that's what we've done, and with
Great.
appropriate landscaping and so forth, that gives them a reason to stay.
Yeah, sort of a gathering place for the community, right?
That's our objective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, is it one building, two buildings? Is it 1 story, 2 stories?
Right.
Tell us about how that, well, the functionality of the site in terms of the building, now that you've done some basic assessment of the property.
So, in order to save money, we determined that 2 buildings would be more efficient than 1. So we have the essential structure that has the super seismic qualities to it, the headquarters itself. And on the first floor of 2, we have our records and all of our public needs. Okay. So as the public comes in the lobby, all those services are there for them on the first floor. And then the second floor is mostly meeting and locker rooms and the chief's office, of course. And so that's the way the first 2-story building is, and that's about 75,000 40,000 square feet. And then in the back, we have what we call everything that stinks and is loud and makes noise. So that's where our fire range is, our dog kennel, our evidence storage is all in more of a shed-type building in the back.
Mm-hmm. What about parking for the public and for the officers themselves?
So as you would enter off of Alicel onto Murphy Street, there would be 45 parking spots for the public. And that's much more than we need. We rarely have more than 5 or 6 people coming to visit the police department at any given time. But when we activate that community room, we may need 30, 35 parking spots. So that's overbuilt and also gives us room for that plaza. Right. And then in the back, we have room for about 280 both sworn and non-sworn employees, fleet and police vehicles and all their toys and all of our employee vehicles. To accommodate that, we're negotiating an access road onto Work Street. So that will minimize the traffic impacts on Alicel and allow our staff to come and go through a secure roadway through the Granite Rock. They've been very gracious, and we continue to work with them on negotiating a property swap so that their retail remains intact.
Right. So there's been a pretty positive receptance, it sounds like, from the community in the immediate area and maybe in the greater area. Have there been any significant concerns raised by the community in terms of the building of the station, the location? And if there has, how has the city addressed that? So
we've been out in the community now since April. We've met probably with more than 100 people, I would say. Mm-hmm. We have more meetings planned. We have merchant meetings planned in September, and we have eventually coming to the City Council in October. I haven't heard a lot of negative feedback, especially when we tell the story of what it's like to do business in that old building.
Yeah.
You know, we're giving back people's personal property at the same time we're bringing in someone from the street in the same small lobby, and it's just, it's oh boy, it's way overdue.
Right.
And so I think most of the community agrees with that, and they want the best because it's going to make our police department more efficient.
Mm-hmm. So this is a multi-department kind of approach. I mean, you're Public Works, you're taking the lead, right. Which is traditionally the role of Public Works to lead on the major building and infrastructure projects. So how's the police interacting with that? How's the department working with you and the rest of Public Works on this effort?
That's a great question, and it's been a lot of fun working with the other departments. Actually, I like to do that. Just yesterday, we had a 90-minute conversation about the environmental analysis.
Wow. And
the potential need for a traffic signal. And so working with traffic engineers and community development and even the native tribes and the other people who may have interest in this property. About a year ago, Ray, the city sent Commander Cooper and Sergeant Maldonado and I to Oklahoma to learn how to build police stations. And that's about all there was to do in Oklahoma, so we learned a lot. And it was a chance to work with the same expert that had done our needs study. And that's when we really got down. We were up till midnight one night, hammering away at the square footage and getting the uses down. And what's fascinating is at one point, Commander Cooper came to me and said, "I'm so glad you're with our team, Don, because all the non-sworn staff think that all the sworn staff are stealing all the square footage, and I need you to come mediate for me, you know, negotiate,
Right,
yeah,
right.
with the records clerks and the other staff."
Right.
So there seems to be a role for everyone, and I like being part of that team effort, and we're covering all the bases with this.
Right. Did you happen in that process to also to look at other communities who have recently built police stations, police headquarters, and how does our project in the city compare with some of the things that have been done recently in other California cities?
So I had the pleasure of seeing a new facility in Oklahoma, which
Okay.
gave us the idea of having a little museum in the lobby when you come in, which
Yeah.
I know you're fond of that idea
Yeah.
as well. But really, Sergeant Maldonado and Commander Cooper have been traveling.
Okay.
So they've been to Buena Park, they've been to Hesperia, they've been to several cities where our architect, LPA, has recently completed projects.
Mhm.
After we left the training in Oklahoma, they went to Dallas. They were able to see 4 or 5 new departments there. They have a lot of money in Dallas, and they put a lot more into their police stations than we're able to do. So I think the California examples are better for us.
Right.
We were looking at the facades of various ones. Rockland recently built one up in the Sacramento area.
Okay.
It's about the same size. It's a very sharp, attractive design.
Mhm.
I think it'll set the model for the rest of the El Sal marketplace.
Great.
So,
Now you mentioned an interesting piece of the project, which is one that I have high hopes for, the sort of museum or historical component. So how are you looking at that in terms of the overall development? Is that going to be part of the building, or how's that going to work in terms of acknowledging sort of the history of our police service in Salinas and some of the significant maybe facts and historical documents or facts that we have about the police department?
So I've entrusted that to the department itself.
Okay.
But as you know, there are some terrific books written about our department.
Mhm.
The first woman commander, or is
Yeah.
that right? The first chief of, or something like that. Anyway, and some great pictures of our patrol and some of the history. If you look up, if you Google murder in Chinatown, for example, you'll learn some great history about that one,
Yeah.
part of our city and that history. So I think all that will come together in our lobby, but in the way of photographs and facts and data. We won't have a Harley Davidson in the lobby, but
Okay.
we'll have some other things that,
Yeah.
because the space is valuable too.
Right.
But I really get the sense that the commander is really looking for every chance he gets to put a piece together for that museum. And then on the outside, we're talking, just this week, we started to bring up the idea of a flag salute, of a place to put
Yeah.
you know, our collection of flags and some kind of tribute to our fallen officers and other heroes,
Mhm.
and have that outside as well as inside the building.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a team of a developer, contractor, architect. How's that team, you know, performing and working with you and the city team?
So one of the benefits of having that three-legged stool, if you will, is the tension that
Yeah.
occurs between them.
Right.
And you can rely on the developer to push the project forward because he's watching his budget and he's the one who's speaking. The time is money. The architect wants to be slow and deliberate and careful and doesn't want to miss anything. And the contractor just wants to make sure it's buildable.
Right.
With that, they tend to come to us as a group, and sometimes they feel a little pushy, like they're pushing this project down our throat, and so that irks the planning department. They want to go a little slower, a little
Yeah.
more careful, and the public outreach component, you know, we need to preserve that and not rush through it. So all those tensions are good. It's going to bring the best quality together. You know, we were proposed what I referred to in an email to you as a harsh elevation. And I was on the phone with the developer yesterday saying, you know, maybe we could have 3 options. Give us 3 different ways that this building could look and let us tell you what we like and don't like. And
Okay.
he had already started working on that.
Wonderful.
He already had that sense that we didn't like his first look. So, so I think the communication has been really good. And as long as you have an honest debate amongst the players, then the tensions turn out to be a positive force for you,
Right.
and keep things moving forward.
So you have some critical deadlines, and
Right.
one would be the engineering and design completed by, as I understand it, the end of this year?
The end of December will be the schematic designs.
Okay,
And then from that, we're going to negotiate a price.
okay,
And that becomes our guaranteed maximum price.
right,
And at that point, the city's pre-development agreement will end, and we'll enter into a lease agreement with the nonprofit.
all right,
And once that lease agreement is executed and the guaranteed maximum price is agreed to, then we'll go to the underwriters and sell bonds and finance the project
Okay.
using our Measure G as our collateral.
right,
And assuming we're successful doing that, then we launch into the development agreement. They look at construction drawings being completed then between, say, February and April. And they were hoping if we could help pay for some construction drawings before the bonds are sold, that we could maybe break ground in May or June.
wonderful,
So that would just be great.
Right.
People know it's real. The merchants know it's real. We've
Uh-huh.
been out there poking holes in things.
right,
Right after our conversation today, I'll be out there. We're looking at the demolition of those old buildings.
okay. So that's the next physical step in the process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That'll be
yeah.
a huge undertaking.
So we're getting our environmental documents taken care of, and we're
Right.
getting our demolition taken care of, and our site acquisitions, and it's all coming together
Right.
incredibly fast.
So what's the reaction by the mayor and the council? How are they viewing this when they communicate with you? I know that you've been briefing them to the extent you can, and they have their own thoughts about the process. And how's that engagement going?
It's been really wonderful and really supportive.
Uh-huh.
Every council member we talked to, before we were done talking with Councilmember McShane, he had taken a photo of it and pasted it on Facebook. All Councilmember De La Rosa could talk about was how important that meeting room was, and
Right.
Ciclavia, and having the community there.
Yeah.
Councilmember Villegas was very supportive, and Councilmember Craig as well.
Okay.
The mayor, I think, when we presented the report in April, had the wonderful statement of how he was promised a new police station in 1969 or something like that. So it's taken us 40 years. So it's quite a privilege to bring this forward, and I hope the mayor's in office when we open the doors.
Right. So when you open the doors, we're talking late 2019 or early
Yeah.
2020?
Yeah, no, late 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, December, I hope.
Well, that's right around the corner.
Isn't it? Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot to do, but
Right.
a
Right.
lot of things that have to happen
Right.
right. But
So, are there, how many, you mentioned you've interviewed at least 100 people, how
Mhm.
many, and have you been able to touch every community group that might be affected or have a interest in the project?
not yet.
Okay,
We're meeting on the 30th with the full PCAC,
okay.
the Police Advisory Committee.
Uh-huh.
We've met with members, so now's our chance to meet with the whole group.
Right,
We met with 3 or 4 retired officers. It'd be great to meet with the whole group.
okay,
And so we're circling back is what we're doing. You know.
Right.
We met with the CASP organization, and I made myself available, and no one took me up on the offer,
Uh-huh.
so I think we need to go back to CASP and meet
Right.
with them. I'm going to be working on a Saturday morning with LULAC here in 6 weeks or so,
okay,
and circling back with them.
right,
And so we have more groups to reach out to, and I think conversations like this will help
mhm,
to get the message out. And I look forward to working with the merchants in a couple weeks
right,
at Mountain Mike's, and we've invited the Chamber and the Salina City Center Improvement Association to those meetings. So,
right,
so we'll try and touch everybody.
okay. So, between now and say the end of the year, if they want to become more involved or they have comments or opinions they'd like you to know about, what's
Right.
the best way to handle that?
So they can always get in touch with me directly,
Okay,
and I'm in the 2nd floor at Public Works,
all right,
and my phone number is 775-4245.
all right,
And I'm always reachable in that way.
okay,
And then we have an outreach program that we started called Visión Salinas, because we have several programs going on right now with our downtown vibrancy, the Alisal vibrancy,
right,
El Gavilan Library,
right,
Car Lake, the Alisal Marketplace, and then this project. So it has a presence on that website, and there's also a survey coming out in the
Okay.
next 10 days. So there'll be a Survey Monkey that people will be able to finish for
Great.
us and let us know what they think. So.
So they're actually on the city's website, they can find more information on
Certainly.
the progress and, additional contact information about, how to direct their questions or comments, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything from I'm a roofer, how do I get in this project, to I hope you do this better than you've been doing it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, now you bring up an interesting dynamic here. We have a local preference, so there'll be many contractors involved, subcontractors, other locals that'll touch the project. So how are we doing in that regard? Although I think the team you selected is not per se local, there are going to be local businesses, firms, etc., involved in the project.
Right, and I think what people don't recognize in that regard is the nature of the project is going to drive that, because the cost of bringing someone from Salinas to this project, Valves Plumbing, versus a plumber from Fresno is insurmountable. You can't beat having the local subs working
Right.
on this project for cost. So it's a huge incentive to the developer to find labor as close to this project as possible.
So, Don, you've been involved from the original concept of the LSL Marketplace to now actually leading the building of part of the project that was an integral part of how the LSL Marketplace would work. So how do you see that? Is it, we realizing something that was a dream in 2006, 7? Are we getting close to what we thought at that time was maybe impossible, now looks very possible and is happening?
That's a great question, because following the recession in 2008 and then the demise of redevelopment, I hope I was at the low of my enthusiasm. But so now maybe I'm at the high of my enthusiasm, as the tides rise and fall. So I really feel like we have to strike while the iron's hot.
Right.
And the investors who originally looked at the LSAL Marketplace are still interested in the LSAL Marketplace. I understand they've bought some property in Salinas recently, but we need to convince them. We need to convince them we're serious about this.
Right.
As you know, the solid waste transfer station is the second component to that.
Right.
And I think if we can invite them down for the groundbreaking and give them a shovel,
Right.
we can keep their interests alive and get a champion to manage that. It would be awesome. I think it's still possible.
So that 57-acre mixed-use major project to help drive the transformation of the LSL still pretty much is alive.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Great.
The cost of land has increased, but so has the value of the dollar. So we just have to see.
Well, it's a heavy investment. I know $50 million in that part of the community is going to make a tremendous difference, and then it's a permanent investment because you'll have the headquarters of police there, and something that will help, I hope, bridge the trust and respect issues between our community and the police, and actually having a community gathering element to it, a major element of it, should be able to break some of those barriers and silos apart so that there can be more of a more positive relationship.
I think we'll see that happen.
Yeah.
When the Taylor building was completed, many of us couldn't wait to go see what it looked like inside.
Right. Yeah.
I hope this building has the same impact. I know it's a lot different, but something new and fresh. But it's the communities.
Right.
This building belongs to the citizens.
That's wonderful.
Of the city. Yeah.
So next step will be the end of this year. You'll have hopefully the schematic design all done, ready to launch into a discussion of a maximum price for the project. So that looks very doable at this point, and it looks like you've got a pretty good team of private folks and also internally with the city folks. So.
Right, and we'll be on the live screen in front of council October 10th.
Okay.
With elevations and all those pretty pictures. This will be the first time it really means something to me. It's like we're really going to do it.
Yeah, basically you're looking at a site, and then all of a sudden, it transfers from the site to here's what it's probably going to look like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it becomes even more real. Now, just going back and framing the site again, that was property acquired from the county?
Right, so we were able to trade a redevelopment asset with the county on Sanborn Road, the old Church of the Nazarene, and we've demolished that site and it's ready for a new clinic to be built there when the county is ready. And in exchange, we got this 4-acre site.
Right. It's almost like a 2-for-1
Well,
in some ways, right?
well, not when you add the price of demolition. I wish it was that sweet, Ray, but
Yeah.
it's going to cost a little bit to knock it down. So.
Right. Well, but the additional investment and the opportunity and the
Right.
services
Okay.
that result,
Right.
as
Okay.
opposed to not having those there.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
so I think
Absolutely, yeah.
for both the community on two fronts, right? So when people say how much you invested in the LSAL, it's not just the 50 million here. We were able to create another site over here that the county
Good
has
point.
that'll actually provide some critical health services.
Right, right. When the Boys and Girls Club first looked at that church, they saw
Right.
9,000 children under 18 within a quarter mile. And it's supposed to be a family center, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful for the community, and so it's such an interesting story that you were in on sort of really the ground floor, the conceptual plan of 110,000
Right,
square feet,
right.
and you know, and a budget twice as big, and you know, 4 stories, and
Yeah.
it was going to look like probably more of a traditional police headquarters at that
Right,
point.
right, yeah, just daunting.
Yeah,
Almost one of the biggest buildings in the city.
yeah.
And
Well,
I
there should be a big celebration sometime
Right,
in late
right,
2019, right?
Right, Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
very exciting.
the next step for people to look at, if they want to really get an upfront, close look, is October 10th?
October 10th, but we'll be out in the community. We'll be out in the community on September 21st.
Okay,
And we're setting up smaller meetings between now and then.
great.
So we'll be putting out announcements. We'll be at probably Mountain Mike's or one of the local merchants there across
Uh-huh.
the street.
Right. So hopefully some of those meetings will be bilingual?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's our rule. We make an assessment of the group that's shown up, and if we have a majority Spanish speaking, then we're in Spanish first
Right.
and English second.
Yeah. And the final is, in terms of what we're going to call this building, is going to be what?
It's going to be our new police department and our police headquarters.
Okay. So it's pretty clear. It's not a community safety building.
No,
It's not
no.
a police service building. It's
Nope,
not a
it's-
public safety building. It is the
Yeah.
police
Yeah.
department
Right,
headquarters.
right. Back to basics.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been very enjoyable. There's been a lot of great information you've given us, Don, and we look forward to the next step and hope you're back on the show to tell us what happened with
Sure.
the next few steps.
It'd be my pleasure. I'd
All
love
right.
to talk about this project.
Great.
It'd be my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
You're welcome.